I want to talk about something that is really something I feel rather than know or understand. And I think it has to do with the fetishizing of spirituality, the creating of a magical world surrounding spirituality. There is this whole concept of magical thinking. And I think for many people, the spiritual dimension, which is already part of magical thinking, starts to infiltrate our idea of what a spiritual life is. This is a very deep subject, meaning it's not like it's new in any way. Every religious teaching and spiritual teaching tries to bring us into touch with the supernatural, the transcendent, the metaphysical. And I think something that has been growing for me over the course of time, and certainly came out of Rudy's teaching, was that this material manifested world is also simultaneously very much in almost mechanistic terms what we would also call the spiritual. Trying to divorce them, trying to separate them out, trying to think that one rises up out of the material and can live in the immaterial. That there are certain incantations one can use, certain magic principles one can use to get you out of trouble, to get you out of worldly stress and drama. And to think that there will be some larger benefit to you as a person, and that you will walk away somehow deified, lifted up, transcended above the masses, that you will have answers that other people don't. This is, for me, magical thinking. Not that I wasn't privy to all of that, and certainly in the early days of my exploration of meditative experience, I was looking for levels of attainment that I could grow into, that I could work toward. And Rudy certainly put that forward very early on. It was very much a growing, working experience in the realm of trying to get somewhere. And I think you've all kind of heard my story, that 44 years of trying to get somewhere and realizing, after devoting daily practice, literally daily practice to that effort, there was a kind of realization that I hadn't gotten anywhere. At least not to where my mind told me I could go. I could not raise the dead. I could barely raise myself from sleep. And I kept wondering, what is it that I am going for here? I mean, there are terms, they were terms like enlightenment and awakening and all of that that were still significant to me. And I knew that somehow if I tried harder, worked harder, I would maybe still get there. But I was despairing after 44 years that I was such a failure. And then as the story goes, my story goes, I stopped sitting on a daily basis. I stopped trying to get there. And 2 weeks later, in a talk that was being given in a group of non-dualists, many of whom claimed to be awakened, I did have the experience of waking up. But it was really an experience that, and I've said this multiple times, so forgive me if this is boring, but I think it's important. The experience was there was no one to awaken. That the entire drama and journey of the spiritual life was predicated on my being a separate entity and my attaining and getting something. And the reality was, the thing you can get in the end is that there's no one to get it. And that's powerful when it occurs. And as I have spoken about quite a bit, the original experience of that awareness is so powerful, so in some ways completing, that you actually walk away thinking that you've attained your doctorate. But I went to my grandson's preschool graduation the other day. And I have to say, when he walked up on that stage and he took a bow that he's been practicing for God knows how long, and it was the most beautiful bow I've ever seen, and he was so cool. He was wearing sunglasses and looked like some kid from, a graduate program. And I looked at him and I thought he knew he had done it. He had finally made it to whatever he imagines the next step is, and we'll discover. But I've said this here too. I noticed over time that my awakening, as massive as it felt, was really more like going from kindergarten to first grade. It could be more than that. I don't mean to be all that analytical about it. But what I'm trying to get at is there is no arrival at a demarcated space that says done. Death maybe, but I don't think so. The closest one gets to done is to realize that there is nothing to finish. There is nothing to complete. There is no place where you have arrived at happily ever after. It does not exist. Because there is no ever after other than infinite being. And you do not take happiness with you into infinite being, not as a state of personal satisfaction, not as a state of arrival at something you can then hold on to forever, because if anything you discover, you can't hold on to anything ever. And that's really a key idea in the spiritual journey. That all of the getting, all of the attainment, all of the effort, all of the work is to create a muscle system that Rudy always talked about. But the muscle system we misguidedly think is to get and have and hold, whereas in truth, the getting, the having, and holding is the first step in what is the key to the spiritual journey, which is let it go. Step back, walk away. Again, it's not as difficult walking away from something you haven't had or cared about. Most of you probably haven't wanted to win an Oscar, and I suspect you don't walk around on a daily basis thinking what a failure you are. It never crosses your mind. I had to win an Oscar in order to walk away from having won an Oscar. The muscle of getting became the muscle of letting go. So there is some real value in being in the world, having a life, building a life, filling it with all of the stuff that life offers us, which is struggle and joy, beauty and ugliness. All of the dualities of existence all surround us all the time, and we get to taste them, we get to spit out the part we don't like, and we get to reach for another scoop of the thing we do like. And it's an amazing experience to be alive and those of us who seek the miraculous to talk about the spiritual, which is part of a, I think, limited mindset, need to know that you can raise the dead and you can turn water into wine, and that you go, and you watch magicians do magic tricks and you go, but of course, after a while you learn how magicians do it, but we don't learn how the great teachers perform miracles, and maybe they aren't magic as such. But I'm sure they are there to convince people with very dense minds that there's something more going on here. And if your mind is convinced of that, then what? Then you become dogmatic in following the teaching of the miracle worker. If they could do it, you can do it. If they had it, you can do it. Just follow the rules, all the rules. Do all the obligated practices that follow in a religious circle, in a spiritual circle. If I do my mantra every day, so many minutes, 59 minutes and 10th of a second, then I'll have it. If you follow the teaching of somebody, you will get there. I recently saw a video of the transformation of Big Indian, Rudy's teaching space, into what's now become a Tibetan center. And I love the Lama who runs it, and I think it's going to be a terrifically beautiful space. But the benedictions for it, the incense, the bells, the walking around, the prayers, the costuming that followed and enveloped all of that, and the people who dressed for the occasion, I looked at all of them and said, yeah, okay, sure, but what does it have to do with anything? I know I can't say that to them directly. Of course, they'll be listening to this talk and they'll go, what's wrong with you, Bruce? You don't get it. And maybe I really don't get it. But I have been in a process of being worked down into smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller spaces, which force me to let go of more and more and more. And in the process, there is something going on that I am in the middle of, but it is very expansive. It is not without pain. It is not without emotional sadness and grief, which I have referenced almost every week for the last however many months. But I am seeing its beauty. This world is your spiritual life. You can make it as magical as you want to make it magical, but I will tell you, it's about the simplest thing of sitting still, working through the noise of your own mind, of your own ego-driven needs and ambitions, working it through. Doesn't mean you don't follow them out, you don't get the career you want, you don't get the house you want, you don't get the marriage you want, you can get all of it. But it is written into the equation, into the bargain of having all this, that at some point you have to know it's borrowed. And you will let it go, and you will let go everything, and you will try to hide certain things that maybe they won't be able to find and they won't be able to take, but they will know, they will find that stuff, and you will be ashamed of it. You will be ashamed that you've held on. You will be ashamed of your dark corners, of your shadow self, and it's going to shine light on all of that. And its purpose is to take you from this loned environment back into the space from which it originally arose. We are all on that ride. Some people are riding it with a certain amount of grace and eloquence. Some people are riding it with profound ignorance. When you start to meditate deeply and quietly, you will see everything I'm talking about. You will look at other people and you will see how open they are to the larger truths and how closed they are. You will see doorways into helping them open, and you will see ways in which they betray those openings. You will see people who truly want help, and you will actually be able to touch them and lift them up or allow them to feel, and it's mostly a feeling experience. They will feel safe in what you offer. But you have to arrive at a place to be able to share it. And once you have arrived at that place, you can teach all you like, but mostly be that person. Be it for anyone who comes into your presence. And they will also be it for you. We went to a wedding yesterday of classmates here, Catherine and Travis, and Susan Landis's daughter, Catherine. I don't know how much any of you love weddings. I am not one of those people who does. It's all a matter of, sitting out in the hot sun, waiting for the bride to arrive. It is making small talk with lots of people and finding yourself at a table with people you've never met before. It is, for me, always a bit of a complicated affair. And yet over the years, I have learned that whoever is there for a reason. And just find out what that is. And we were sitting at a table with the most wonderful people. And they told me their stories, and they were instructive to me. And I shared stories that I believe were instructive to them. And we all came away hugging, grateful to have met one another, grateful to have touched each other on some level, and shared this mystery. The wedding itself had a kind of profound authenticity, a reality that was like embracing this whole space. The level of eloquence of everyone who spoke and everyone who was there was beyond touching. The idea of a sacred space, of the universe blessing an event, felt real. It did not feel contrived, as many weddings often do. It just felt, yes, this is how it is. People doing their best to be, to share, to contribute. And of course, there were all the complications of marriages that were broken up and partners being together who hadn't seen each other in 20, 30 years. There was a lot of that, but it felt so noble and so easy. And I kept going, this is what it's like when good people live their lives and come together to celebrate love. It's deeply spiritual, if you will, but really just deeply human. And I walked away so grateful and filled with joy and sadness, because as we drove away, I realized I'm driving away from a lot of situations now that will be my last time there. Last time there really can get to you if you experience it. The poignancy of what I consider the most beautiful landscape in the world, the ride to Petaluma, which is where this was. I just think the rounded sculptural hills, there's no painter that can capture the beauty of it. And I'm not going to see this often again. And I love it. I love it so much. And I love the environment. I love the weather. I love the people I know here. And I'm watching endings starting to happen, and they are eating me up in such a profound way. And all I can do is go, this is how it works. This is what it feels like. This is what it's like to be given 2 months to live. And, we're all going to be there, unless it happens quickly. And then I believe in the Tibetan teaching of the Bardo states, and your mind then has to go through its journey. The Tibetans say the clear light of reality appears to everybody immediately, but most people look away. They're afraid of it. But the Bardo state is a journey into finally accepting the clear light of your being. And it has no time and no space. It's just almost like a huge mind event until you finally dissolve into the nothingness from which you emerge. This sounds like fairy tales, storytelling, and I can only say, to me, it's reality. Reality is we emerge from something we do not understand. We experience the world for some reason which feels to me like it needs and wants to be explored and shared. I feel the singularity that comes up in that exploration. So when I look into your eyes, I'm not looking at other, I'm looking at self. I'm looking at myself, but I don't mean Bruce. The self, staring back at me from every human being. And I feel some people look at me and have no idea who they're seeing or what they're seeing. Some people look at me and see themselves. And when that happens, a kind of inner dialogue happens, a kind of opening, a kind of sharing, a kind of wonder of oneness happens. And the great teachers, Rudy being one of them, you looked into his eyes and you saw yourself. And he could help you keep that door open. He could help show you the route or the road, the map to having a big, wide open life. None of it was filled with magic. Rudy's work was, he bought a new building and had all of us go upstairs and tear down the rooftops and put up new sheetrock and worked our asses off for him. But he knew, and I knew, even as we were doing it, we were not doing it for him. We were doing it for us. And I realized during one of these episodes that my dad had always asked me to mow the lawn. I said, no, I don't want to mow it. Teenager, more important things to do. And I really denied him my gift of help. And I did not mow the lawn. And Rudy made me mow the lawn internally. He made me work. And I realized at one point, work was a gift, and I was paying it back because I hadn't given it to my dad, I could give it to Rudy. And Rudy said to me often, I am reparenting you. And that's kind of what a teacher does. They reparent you. And now I have a grandson who is so like me, and I realize he's reparenting me, my grandson. I'm watching all these things going on in him that were like me, and I'm trying to help him understand how to do them better. He doesn't want anything to do with it. He's going to do it on his terms one way or the other. But the one thing I can do is open, unending love. And it's working. I see it with my granddaughter, who's older, now 8, and she was much like her brother, and now she's becoming this sweet, kind, giving person. And I just watch evolution, and I realize, don't make judgments. Don't tell people, don't lock people out of your life as being one thing, because they're always possibly changing and growing and becoming something remarkable. And if you sit there with love, compassion, and attention, you're the best teacher they can have. You're the best thing that could happen to them. And if you, as an adult, can sit with love and attention for another human being and compassion, you're the best thing that can happen to anybody. So to be a teacher, you don't have to do magical incantations. You don't have to turn water into wine, or feed 1,000 people with one loaf of bread, or whatever the great things are. I don't mean to be just Christian in this, because a lot of Hindu and I'm sure Muslim and many other religious ideals all have these magical moments in them. All you have to do, the true magic, is love and have compassion and show up for other people. And it is transformative, especially if you're consistent. Because inconsistent love, people have to dance to get. Consistent love is a gift that you give and offer. In the beginning, it becomes a practice. In the end, it's what and who you are. And I feel that. The one thing I feel going on in my life right now is so much is being stripped away. And as I'm being asked to work harder than I've ever worked, day in, day out. And I'm not in my 20s anymore. This is hard. But it's breaking me down and breaking me down. And it's showing me all the shadow stuff. And it's everything I need to know to let go of is being brought directly into my attention. It's powerful, powerful work. Magical? No. Moment to moment, daily reality is doing it all. And the result of it is, as everything is stripped away, something remains, and the best way to discover what remains is get there. Or, if you're lucky, to discover as we sit in this class, for example, that thing which remains is already present. It's called presence. awareness, consciousness. There is something in which all of this is taking place that we don't see because it's so ubiquitous, it's so present. The Tibetans talk about the clear light of reality as though it's something that hits you at the end of your life, but really it's as life evaporates around you, you realize you've never been anywhere but in the clear light of reality. The clear light of reality is this. And as they take away everything that is, if you will, unreal or on loan, as they take away everything that's on loan, and you see what's left is, to say it stupidly, perhaps, what's left is everything. It is unpossessable everything because there's no one to possess it. It's just the what is left. What is it? You know, those of you who want to pronounce what it is, sell tickets to see it, charge people to get to it, that's your choice. I don't think you'll benefit from that. But I really do believe the what is what a true teacher will lead you to see or witness or appreciate. And the teacher is just helping by sharing their journey into the same place that you're going, that we're all headed. We all come from this remarkable, indescribable, unnameable truth, love, beauty. We get to play with it in the world of the matter and form for some reason. You can make up any reason you want, and then it gets taken away and you go back. I don't know more than that. But I will tell you, I am arriving at a place of grief and sadness and poignancy and love and truth and beauty that I could not have endured earlier in my life, that it would have driven me to drink and God knows what else, you know, because it's so intense and so powerful and so kind of demanding. I mean, it's demanding in that it needs to be shared person to person to person. Standing at that wedding yesterday and watching how this energy attracted people who wanted to know something and hear something, and the ability to share it with them in some fundamental depth. And it was just for moments, and I will never see these people again, but I could feel, wow, this is working. I have nothing to do with it. I just had to go to the wedding. We just have to show up in life. That's all we have to do. And if you get this thing working in profound enough depth, you will look at the people around you and you will see what they need, what you have to say. You don't even have to be articulate about it. You just have to show up and it will come out. It will happen. Every one of you in this room, probably every one of you listening to this talk, has this capacity. You can become that which shows up, that which arrives in other people's lives as a deep presence, a deep listening, a deep force of love and compassion, and ability to quietly, subtly, and most likely under the sight of most people, change their lives. Just touch them in a particular way. Just say the right thing. Just offer to hear the thing they need to tell you. Whatever that may be, this is teaching. This is the great teaching. You know, and at the end of it, you don't say, "Can I have $2, please?" You're not looking for anything back, ever. What comes back is the immediacy of that exchange. It is so rich and dense with holiness, if you will, with blessing, with acknowledgement of something so much greater, which is incomprehensible and yet wildly present, and it just fills you, and you're doing its work, and you know that in doing its work, you are here for a reason, and that's the reason. And it takes you a lifetime to get it so you can do it well. And I'm just getting to the point, I think, where I'm getting to be okay at it. And I think all of us can get there. And keep it up. You know, I mean, I'll have more to report in the year or so to come, because, you know, as you get ripped down to so little, what will come through that is still, to me, a total unknown. But I will share it as it comes through, and I will be able, I think, to love you even more than I do now. So, thank you guys for showing up for this, and I doing the best I can here. It's an amazing, amazing ride, and I wouldn't be on it if you weren't around. So thank you. I mean, any questions? Okay. Oh, thank you. I will tell you, the next 6 weeks are complicated. Blanche and I did not finish closing down the LA house, so we're going back there in a week, and we have another wedding next weekend, and have to close down the art exhibit in San Francisco. And by the way, on Thursday night there's a showing of Ghost at the Rafael Theater in San Rafael. You're all welcome to come if you like. I give a talk afterward. I did it last week, as you may have heard in the email, for Jacob's Ladder. I expected 5 people to show up, and the theater was full. It was kind of amazing, and I appreciated those of you who were able to make it. So we'll do it again with Ghost. Ghost is a more popular film, and therefore I actually expect fewer people, because it's been on television forever. But you're all welcome to come. But it's just one more thing that's happening in the middle of so many other things, and now everybody seems to want to have lunch and dinner, and to come to class. This is really winding down. So there will be a few more classes here, and they may be in other spaces, and I will send out an email this week to let you know. But it's likely next weekend there will be no class, because my son is moving here with his family, and they can't really vacate for the class. So we will see what happens. There may be a class, there may not, but I will keep you in the loop, and we will continue teaching until the end of July, when we will not have a chair to sit on, or we could sit on the floor, all of us, but we'll figure it out. And of course, once we move to Red Hook, there is an open invitation, truly open invitation for you to come.
Are you doing any big Indian workshops this year?
Bless you. I don't know. I don't think so, because we're going to be living an hour from Big Indian, and I can do them at my house.
Are you doing any workshops?
We're arriving there at the beginning of August. I don't know how long it will take us to make that place a space that I can work in. So it may not be a workshop. It may just be classes starting when I can start, and whoever wants to come can come. But it probably won't be 2 full-day workshops.
And the art exhibit, you were going to do a follow-up talk. Have you done that? Or is
No, we haven't done that, and I'm not sure we're going to have time to.
And how long is that up again?
Until the very end of June, which is the 29th,
Thank you.
at the Laundry in San Francisco. It's really beautiful. Again, yes.
And for sure we're gonna see you again before you leave?
I'll be here again, yes.
But you don't know yet which weekend?
I don't, because I have to go to New York to unload the trucks, and then we have to come back here again to pack up. So while we're packing this house up, we'll be here for 3 weeks doing that. So somewhere in that 3 weeks, I may have 1 or 2 or 3 classes.
And you probably be July?
Say again?
In July, not
July, not June. But again, I might get 1 day here in June. I don't know. I really don't know. But things are not. They're going to be disrupted some way, so we just have to flow with the disruption. Okay.
Yes, I'm beginning. You won't be teaching for 4 Sundays.
For 4 Sundays? I won't be teaching for 4 Sundays.
Okay.
So,
You just got the word.
yeah, the word came down from on high, and I asked for nothing more.
We definitely will see you in July.
You'll see me in July. Okay, thank you. Thank you, guys.